this is Tia and welcome to another video. Today, as you can see from the title and thumbnail of the video, we are reading the last 3 chapters of book 4, chapters 12 through 14, perspective of Impulse. If you haven't read the other parts, probably should do so because there were pretty big spoilers, and there are going to be pretty big spoilers ahead. And yes, of course, as always, for Hermitcraft Genesis, there are captions that are available. So, take your pick. We shall get right to it. Chapter 12. Impulse sat down on the couch, Kate plopping down right beside him. He kept his head down, barely hearing Blake walk out of the room, getting the adults and Liam to have an early morning meeting. Was this really happening? Was this real? Or was he in the middle of a nightmare, about to wake up and find that their enemies hadn't escaped, that Rhinestone hadn't followed through, that she failed? But she hadn't failed. She had done what she had come to do, and here they were, hermits and cause members alike, sitting ducks while danger hovered over them like a storm cloud. Sure, she could bring Gerald back, but Mr. and RJ were just as bad, not worse. Are you sure you're okay? Kate asked softly, her voice breaking the deafening silence. Impulse looked up at her, seeing her gray eyes filled with concern. I'm fine. Just bad memories. Do you want to talk about it? Impulse shook his head, wiping away the stray tears from his face. Echoes of Tango's agonized screams filled his mind as he took a slow, steady breath. Tango was safe. He was with Doc, one of the most smartest and powerful people the hermit knew. He closed his eyes, trying to forget the horrible memory, the torture RJ had put one of his best friends through in order to get him to talk, to get Grian to talk. Do you think he did it on purpose? Kay whispered. Impulse opened his eyes. To get under your skin? It's much worse than that. But why else would Gerald do that? Why would he give up such a big secret to you? I would have found it eventually if I read your memories. Maybe not. You had no reason to. I told you what happened. Why would you make the connection that Andrew and Richard were... You're right. Impulse sighed, lowering his head to stare down at the hardwood floor. Rhinestone probably counted on us not knowing yet. Then why did he do it? Impulse shook his head again. Even under Mr. A's authority, he had his own agenda, things he wanted to accomplish, alongside tasks asked of him. He wanted to scare you. More or less, Impulse admitted, letting his shoulders fall. Pretty sure you accomplished that. But we'll figure it out, right? We have to. Kate insisted. We will. Impulse looked up to see Clara, Matthias, Blake, Liam, and Julius walk into the main room. Each of them wore similar grim expressions. Do you need to get Kate and Sean? Kate frowned, looking up at the group. I'll give them a full report later, Matthias confirmed. He looked over at Blake. She said it was urgent. I didn't want to wake up any of the interns or the hermits, Blake replied calmly. He looked over at Impulse. Do you want to tell them? I can. Kate sat up straighter, looking over at the group, seated before her. She relayed everything that happened, from her slipping into the kitchen to visit Jelly, to Impulse finding her and showing her how to fight back against Gerald, to the revelation Gerald had shown the hermit. How were you able to do that without training? Any training? Blake asked when she described the force field. It's what she wanted, Impulse said. She wanted to protect me, and that's what happened. It isn't that hard. You can do anything you put your mind to. She smiled. I've learned that much from watching the hermits practice. It might come in handy if they use that fence again. Liam nodded thoughtfully. I can show you how to shield certain memories, Impulse offered. So a lot of that was through knowing what Scar would do and works. That's good to know, Clara replied, looking over at Matthias. We should tell someone about this. way to state the cause is in now. Matthias frowned. I've been unable to reach Tony or Tom to update them on events. Rose is currently unreachable, and I can't reach whoever the head of the cause is right now either. Do you know who that is? Kate tilted her head. Matthias shook his head. All I know is that they forbade me to talk to Tom. So, what do we do? Impulse asked. She's coming with his army. Coming for us. Are we just gonna sit here and do nothing? Notifications are weird. We're just gonna sit here and do nothing? We can figure that out. We can figure out how the null works, Julia said simply. And train, both physically and mentally. And we know RJ is back to create new gadgets to play with, Liam pointed out. He may have had a hand with this new gadget that stops our systems. He definitely did, Impulse said sourly. They have to have some way of getting around our attempts to stop them. Blake smiled grimly. You know his redstone signature, right? Somewhat, but without the gadget I can't confirm if he did it. But knowing how he does it could help you to stop what he's doing. I'll talk to B-Dubs when he wakes up. You've been through a lot already today, Blake warned. Get some rest. Then you can lend Bubbles a hand if you're up for it. Are you sure it's a good idea? Liam glanced over at Blake. Tyler said he'd need at least 3 days. As long as he doesn't overdo it, he should be okay, Blake stated, beating the hermit's gaze. I don't think we'll be able to keep him down for long anyway. Pulse nodded, lowering his gaze. Is it alright if I call Tango first, just to make sure he's okay? That's fine, Clara said gently. You think he might be in trouble? I don't think so. Gerald honors some memories I would rather forget. I need to hear his voice. Then do what you need to do, Matthias nodded, as he got to his feet. I'll find Joel's protectors and report to them what I can. I'll see if I can't reach Carl or Santiago to tell them our report. Good idea, Liam replied. I know my aunt's been trying to figure out more about the Jargons after Eli died. Matthias nodded solemnly in the boy's direction. Might be good to alert Sam in case he does have a way to reach Rose or Stampy. Count it done, Liam replied as Kate pulled Impulse to his feet. Impulse walked toward the sleepover room, putting her hand into his pocket where the communicator was. Impulse arrived at the open doorway, stopping at the door frame when he spotted a pair of eyes looking at him. A lump formed in his throat as he saw the pale face, Korean. Wide awake. Impulse couldn't quite read what was in his wide, dark eyes. Everything okay? Green rasped as Kate ran into the room, going to the hermit's side. It's complicated. Impulse swallowed, Kate reaching over, feeling the Korean's forehead as the younger hermit blinked. Impulse crossed the room, standing at the end of the bed. How are you feeling? Fine, Korean yawned, rubbing the sleepers from his eyes. You look pale. So do you, Impulse pointed out. You were attacked by those jerks, remember? Gerald. Korean lowered his eyes to the bed. They had eyes, using their heads. He wanted to... Shh, it's okay, Kate said gently, taking out a bottle from the nightstand. And she handed it to him as Green took it, downing it slowly. It's a potion. Potion. What matters is someone was able to get to you guys in time. They'll come back though, won't they? She'll come back, Green said softly. Impulse stepped closer, kneeling beside his friend's bed. We're going to figure this out, I promise. Impulse met his friend's gaze. Why did Blake get Liam? Why did he say it was urgent? Green asked him pointedly. Impulse closed his eyes aside. Some big things have happened. Things that might explain how that attack was possible. Green's eyes widened again, his already pale face draining completely of color. Is everyone is safe as far as I know, Impulse said quickly. I was helping Kate see if she could deal with Gerald in her head. Gerald showed me one of her memories. Mr. A and RJ are free. Kate finished, looking over at the hermit meaningfully. Green choked back a cry as a hand went over his mouth. Kate scooted closer to the younger hermit. But Impulse is right. We're going to figure this out. We know who they are now. Dr. Richard Jargon and his brother are Andrew. Maybe we can use that to our advantage. Find a way to stop them, for good. But why would they give up their names like that? Green whimpered. Maybe they think there's no point. They believe in what Dr. Rhinestone is doing. Kate grabbed Green's trembling hand. They think they're going to win. That they won't need to hide under big names anymore. Green let out a laugh, pulling his hand away as he shook his head. Impulse rose to his feet as Green's body shook with nervous giggles. Stop it before it comes to that, Impulse stated. How? Green asked. We have a lot of friends, Impulse replied. A lot of people who aren't afraid to stand up for what's right. They may have an army, but we're hermits. We're not as predictable as we think we are. Green met his gaze again. Tears were filling the younger hermit's eyes as he finally nodded. You think it'll work? We have to try, Impulse said matter-of-factly, glancing over at Kate as she nodded. She smiled, her eyes sparkling with curiosity as Impulse turned away, gripping his hand on the communicator as he sent a single thought to Tango, ready to connect and tell him everything he needed to know. Chapter 13. Are you going to stare at that all day, or are you going to open it? Impulse blinked, looking up at Green, who was sitting upright in his bed. They were the only two hermits in the sleepover room. The other hermits had gone off to practice combat, along with some mental training with the headband upstairs. B-Dubs and Isaac were in the main room, working on recreating the doll that Liam suspected RJ had made. And why wouldn't he have? RJ loved to experiment with his gadgets, even using YouTubers as test subjects to see how far he could go. Impulse shuddered at the thought, clenching his fists to keep them from trembling. I don't know. Dazzler. You can squeak out, you can tweet all you want, but it's not going to change anything. Sorry. I don't know, Impulse sighed, shaking his head. The lingering potion book Blake had been reading the previous day was on his lap, unopened. He'd been staring at the potion on the cover for what felt like hours. Because I thought I'd learned something from this. Meaning you're bored. A sliver of a smile appeared on Green's face. Aren't you? What's the book about? Lingering potions, Impulse replied. Blake got his hands on this when Tyler told him about how those guys used it on us. That's interesting, Green pondered. Where do you get a book like that from? I got a stack of books from Tom a while back. Not long after I came here, Liam said. I have a good amount of potion books and combat books, some of which Haley sent to Kate. How would they get their hands on Dragon's Breath? Green demanded. That's what Tango said. Impulse chuckled. They probably found some. Same way Julius found and stole my unlocking gadget I used to try to escape from Rob. Green closed his eyes and sighed. Fun times, wasn't it? He frowned before he asked, whatever came of Rob? He disappeared after you tried to stop Jem from rescuing you, right? Yeah, Impulse swallowed. Wish I knew too, Liam replied. I know it'd give you some relief after everything that's happening. Has Sam said anything? Green asked. About whether or not he was able to reach Rose or Stampy? Liam shook his head. Sorry. He told me he'd see what he could do, but wouldn't be able to tell me. For obvious reasons. We took care of the cameras in the base, Green insisted. There were no sign of Mike's. Unless they found a way to hack the communicator, Impulse pointed out. Which is possible if they took some of ours and found a way around security. And we don't know who's manufacturing the new ones, Liam added. If any of the people that were sent a communicator to copy were working for Rhinestone, willingly or unwillingly, gave her the information she needed to copy Impulse's design, it wouldn't be hard to work around it. Green groaned. Just her luck. But we don't know if that's the case, Impulse said. I noticed when Viva tampered with the communicator. Surely I'd see if someone did the same. Not unless they were able to hide their trail. It's better to be careful, especially more so now when my aunt isn't leading anymore. Is there anything Impulse can do about it? Or not the red donor? Green pressed. Doc is coming up with something, Impulse reassured the younger hermit. If anyone can find a vulnerability, it's him. In the meantime, we're doing the best we can to keep the base secure, Liam said. He pushed himself from the wall by the door. And to keep you all safe. Can't hold the base forever, right? If worse comes worse, we can go to Doc's place. Or Mumbo's? Green asked hopefully. I don't know. Kind of tired of running, Impulse admitted. They'll keep coming for us, even if we run. Mr. A and RJ have reminded us of this time and time again. Even Gerald said we can't run forever. Eventually we have to do something, or die trying. Creed nodded. Then let's hope this plan works. It will, Impulse said defiantly, just as the bedroom door opened. He turned his head. We have a visitor, Beedip's triumphant voice declared as he strolled into the sleepover room. Tango walked in behind him as Impulse blinked. Tango, what are you doing here? Green frowned, glancing over at Impulse warily. Oh, nothing major. Tango's red eyes flashed with amusement. Just seeing how my friends are doing. Norm and that, right? Except the fact that Dr. Renstone is watching the space, Impulse asked. Tango chuckled, shaking its head. It's not like we haven't dealt with a mad scientist before, Impulse. Right. We were talking, Beedubs added quickly, and Tango and I agreed that it might be better if we stuck our three heads together to solve this problem of the null. There's not much we know about it, really, Impulse sighed, leaning up and back against the pillow. But think RJ had a hand in it, Tango pointed out, gesturing to the headband lying on the nightstand beside the bed. And who also had a hand in making that? Those two. Impulse winced and nodded. How could I forget? But without the catch, you can't know RJ's redstone signature, Green said. Tango smirked. That's what I thought. Since Matthias had all the previous headbands confiscated, we don't necessarily know his signature, apart from these. Hermit pulled out a few sheets of paper from his pocket and put it on Impulse's lap. Impulse looked down, unsure of what the lines and scribbles meant at first. You made notes. As any redstoner should, Tango agreed. I had them stored in a ender chest in case we needed them again, alongside my valuables. So does that mean? Green whispered. It means we have a place to start, Tango replied. I took the headband apart to research its components from the inside out, just like you did. So now, let's put it back together and see what happens. Impulse managed a weak smile. Did Julius help in those? He did, but he wasn't the only one who worked on it. RJ was one of those other people. Impulse nodded, reluctant. RJ could have been one of those people. Yes. Could have been. Make that more ambiguous because he doesn't know for sure. They're doing anything they can. Figure it out. Impulse nodded reluctantly. Are you sure this is a good idea? RJ's redstone signature, from what I remember, is well organized, like you would expect to find in an office, Beat-Up suggested, flopping down on a bed across from the hermit. Exactly, and reasonably simple too, Tango stated. He's more interested in how he can use it on others than making it foolproof. Hence why we could easily outmaneuver it. He never imagined we'd try to use technology against him. But now he's well aware of that, Liam stated. He's not going to make the same mistakes again. He didn't expect you to make Tyler and Blake go out to G and Tango. Right, Green muttered. He thought we only cared about ourselves. Which was why the tech they tried on me backfired when he got captured, Impulse noted. Meaning, he'd want to be more careful to ensure we can't use technology against him. That's assuming he did help make the null, Liam said, holding his index finger. don't have definitive evidence of that, seeing as my brother wasn't able to get his hands on that gadget. What are we going to do? Green asked nervously. We make sure no one can use their gadgets against us. We'd be on the same level. Tango narrowed his eyes. You want to make an EMP, Liam said. Oh, excuse me. Impulse said. Wrong people. Precisely. It's a surefire way to make sure that they don't have the upper hand. No one can use their gadgets. We'll need a pretty big blast to spread across the perimeter, Liam noted. And without knowing the frequency, we don't know the potential dangers it could pose. Tango shrugged. It was an idea. If we can't create a way to deactivate the doll in time, then at least there's that plan. Would it be strong enough to blow out the Guardian tech, if they had any? Green asked. And what if they had more lingering pushes? They don't need technology to use those. That's an easy fix. We stay away from the bubbles, Tango stated. What if we can't? Green pressed. We figure it out as we go, Beat-Up said cheerfully. That's how we do it, isn't it? It is. Green looked down at his bed sheets with a small smile, fidgeting with his blankets. I don't want this to fail. We spent years here building up a community, a family, and they want to take it away from us. I don't want to lose this. None of us do, Impulse replied, pointing at Liam. Why do you think I give him such a hard time lately? Liam laughed. It's for your own good, Impulse. Well, the good thing is you can be just as useful in bed here than anywhere else, Beat-Up grinned, nodding over at Tango. Tell him. Tell me what? Impulse looked between his two friends. Tango reached into his pocket again and pulled something small out of his pocket. I'm behind a let's make that sentence a little easier. See, let's do this. Tango pulled something small out of his pocket. It fit neatly in the palm of his hand, as the hermit grinned, almost looking like a mad scientist himself. This, right here, is what Bubbles and I have been working on since this morning. This is the null prototype. It's not much now, but I want to be able to use this to be able to do wonders for us. Stop our enemies in their tracks. Thought Doc was supposed to send them packing. Impulse smiled. He will, but with this it's just the appetizer for what's coming for them. Tango's eyes brightened. Doc's bringing the main course. Might even have time for dessert after. Icing on the cake. Green giggles. So, what do we test it on first? Impulse asked, reading his friend's eyes. Hesitant to try this around the cameras in here, Tango admitted, looking over at Liam. Might scare whoever's watching them. Liam chuckled. If it happens, we deal with it. It's what we do. Exactly. Tango's eyes gleamed with satisfaction, matching the glee written on his smile. In his smile. It works. Chapter 14. The rest of the afternoon had come and gone, and before Impulse knew it, Tango and Tyler returned to Doc's fortress. The sun was starting to set as Impulse stared up at the ceiling, listening to the muffled voices in the hallway. The others were long finished with their combat training session, hanging out for a few hours before heading to bed. Impulse couldn't sleep, certainly not when any moment Dr. Rhinestone might send her men after them. Last time they'd been lucky. Was that luck still stand, or had it run out? He heard a groan across the room. He looked over. Greenwood lying in his bed, tossing and turning. Nervous? Impulse whispered. Green fell still. Me too. You're supposed to be the redstone master or something like that, Green teased. Something like that, Impulse agreed. I just want this to be over already. Same, Green replied. I just want a peaceful night's sleep in a dream world. But when Gerald is taunting Scar and Cake like he is, and knowing he's waiting for something, scares me. What does a dead guy want with the living? Drag us down with him? Impulse cast. Green giggles. Maybe. We can only do the best we can and hope that Kate's tinkering amounts to something. But what if he's right? that she's stuck with him forever? Green asked. Can we help her? And anyone else that Rhinestone has been able to change? Or we make him leave, Green muttered. He's a stinky spirit that doesn't want to let go of the fact that we beat him, that we outsmarted him. Just like Mr. A and RJ are mad at us for outsmarting them, getting them locked up. We were both there for that. They shouldn't have messed with us to begin with, Impulse pointed out. But they did, Green said softly. If I hadn't... No, G, it's not your fault. It never has been, Impulse snapped, sitting up in bed. They chased me, Skiz, and Tango out of our world, remember? We had to run. Otherwise, we would have been captured and killed. We knew they were out there. Those men wanted us dead. They couldn't risk us finding the cause or fighting back later. But they didn't find you until I led them there. You didn't mean to, Impulse said calmly. You don't know what they would have done if they hadn't followed you. But they would have found us eventually. Green smiled sadly, sitting up in bed himself. You really think they were looking for you? Why do you think Clara hid Skids away when she found him? Impulse raised an eyebrow. When she had no way of reaching the cause, she knew there was someone who needed her help. So she stepped in. Skids was protected for years, thanks to her. Never found until the cause found them. Green nodded. Clockwork plan. It's always been about that, hasn't it? Yeah, Impulse nodded. Guessing Liam told you about that? Stampy figured it out, and Gerald didn't like it. Green looked over at the door. I don't think he gave more proof to those lies. Exactly, Impulse agreed. Their ultimate goal was to eliminate us, all of us. They can't have some of us getting away and warning others. But it's happened. It's still happening. And they want to put a stop to it. Green swallowed, tightening his grip on the blankets. For good. Certainly not ours. Think about it, G. They followed you back to our world. If they really wanted to, they could have easily captured you at any time after you left the camp. But that didn't happen. They knew you'd lead them to us, to more YouTubers to deal with, to take care of. It's not your fault. You did everything you could, and I'm glad you did fill in those gaps when you found us that day. It was good to know we weren't doing this alone. Green closed his eyes, sitting completely still before he finally nodded. You knew about the helicopters, at least. It could have been worse for you. Impulse said gently. I'm glad it wasn't. Glad you're here. I'm glad you're here too. Green smiled. The voices in your head really stink sometimes. Gerald? Impulse frowned. Green shrugged. What in the world? What did I just say? Does it have to be? Mostly memories. Memories of being in those cells. Seeing the soldiers. Confronting Mr. A and RJ. How they used me as a battery, the power of the Eliminator to destroy the very people I cared about. I'm sorry. Impulse pushed the covers away, aside. Nightmares are the worst. No kidding, Green chuckled. They know it too. Think you're up to seeing how the others are doing? Impulse offered. Might be good for you. But we're supposed to be on bed rest. Green raised an eyebrow as Impulse got to his feet. An hour or two, all right. Impulse shook his head, crossing the room to stand at Green's bedside. Besides, I'm not leaving you in here by yourself. You don't need to move around to cause chaos. Green giggled as she pushed the blankets aside. The bandages were gone, all sign of injury having vanished, or hidden underneath a fresh red jumper. I'm ready when you are. Suddenly, the bedroom door slammed open as both hermits jumped. Impulse looked up, seeing Jem standing in the doorway, an expression of worry in her expression. Excuse you? Excuse you? Expression of worry on her face. It's what I meant to say. Hey. What? What? I'm leaving that in. You can laugh. Have you seen Joel? We've literally been on bed rest the entire day, Green pointed out. I thought he was training with you. He was, Jem bit her bottom lip. Until about an hour ago. He said he needed to make a call. I haven't seen him since. Have you tried calling him? Impulse asked the young hermit, as the young hermit walked into the room. Have the others seen him? No one's seen him, Jem insisted. Matthias is asking Sean and Kane if they've heard from him. His calls aren't going through either. Can I see? Impulse offered, walking over to the young woman. Jem nodded, taking out her communicator and handing it to him. Impulse fiddled with the device for a moment, taking in the screen with flashing images and buttons. Everything seems fine. I can't reach him, Jem insisted. I tried calling Carl or Scott to see if they'd seen him, but they haven't seen anything. Fine, Impulse said matter-of-factly. I just can't understand why you'd taken off without telling us. Did something happen? Are the others okay? Let me try mine, Impulse offered, setting the communicator down as he scooped his up from the nightstand. Looking at it, he frowned. Joel is connected. Can you track him? Jem asked. Try, but I'm not getting any signal. It's almost like... Suddenly, the screen of the communicator turned off as Impulse jumped. The room plunged into darkness a moment later. Da, da, da. What was that? Jem asked, warily, reaching a hand toward the hilt of her sword. Impulse opened his mouth to speak when he heard the sound of shattering glass, followed by a scream as his blood ran cold. He looked over at Green, who was in the process of scrambling out of bed, then to Jem, all color draining from her face. The shadow of a large, burly figure appeared behind her in the hallway. That, my dear, is what you call an entrance, an unfamiliar voice mused, as a bottle flew into the air. Impulse lunged toward Jem, knocking her to the ground. She screamed. The glass shattered behind him as Impulse got the hint of a strangely sweet smell. A strangely sweet smell. Don't breathe it in. Sleeping potion, Impulse warned, beating Jem's wide, terrified eyes as she nodded. Impulse fought back a yelp as he was yanked back by large hands, throwing him hard on the hardwood floor. Green cried out in alarm as the hermit looked up in time to see one of the men lunge at his friend, sending them both tumbling to the ground. Green! Impulse shouted. A pair of arms grabbed him from behind as he struggled to free himself. He couldn't let them hurt Green. Not again. Take the hermits downstairs, another unfamiliar voice said gruffly. We'll take care of the cause members. What about the children? A raspy voice asked. Lock them up with the adults. She'll see them later. The YouTubers come first. Yes, sir. The voice sounded more distant. Impulse blinked blearily, seeing Jem and Green lying limply on the floor. Where were the others? Had they escaped? What was going on? Please, if anyone can hear me, help. Impulse groaned as something cold and hard snapped around his forehead, humming to life. The headband glowed faintly, giving him enough light to see his friends as two other men swung them over their shoulders. Similar headbands illuminating their features. Knocked out. Cold. That's the end of book 4, guys. And the next one will be, book 5. The last one that I've written for Hermitcraft Genesis. And I believe that will be the last one for Hermitcraft Genesis. And then, we'll see what happens next. Because, of course, I don't want to spoil anything for you. But, that was fun to read. So far, I'm keeping even numbers most of the time, but it doesn't matter, really. You guys want a teaser for what the next one is? I'll say this. It's one that you guys have been looking forward to. It's like I offered to do a perspective through Brian's eyes, as he is helping Lizzie and Stacy and Big B, also known as Tony, at school. And, of course, things are happening over there. And you notice, this chapter, and Jones disappeared off somewhere, and now you can kind of see where this is headed. Maybe. If you don't worry about it. You'll have a little bit more answers next week, maybe. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and see you guys in the next one, whenever that might be. Goodbye.